I didn't notice it at first because it didn't feel like anything was wrong. It felt like sleep. Like every other night, I had ever had the same routine, the same quiet room, the same slow drift into darkness, where thoughts fade and everything becomes distant. And for a long time, that's all it was. Nothing unusual, nothing that stood out, nothing that would have made me question anything, until the morning I woke up feeling different. Not sick, not in pain, just off. Like something had happened while I was asleep. Something my body remembered even if my mind didn't, and I tried to ignore it at first. Because it's easy to dismiss things that don't have a clear explanation. Easy to convince yourself that it's nothing, just a bad night, just stress, just something temporary. But the feeling didn't go away. It stayed with me throughout the day like a quiet weight. I couldn't quite place, and when night came again, I didn't think much of it. I went to bed like always, expecting the same routine, the same rest, the same nothing. And when I woke up the next morning, the feeling was there again, stronger this time, heavier, like something had happened again, something I couldn't remember. And that's when I started paying attention, because it wasn't random anymore, it was repeating, and repetition always means something. And over the next few days, I began to notice patterns, not obvious ones. Not at first, just small things, the way I woke up feeling exhausted, even after a full night of sleep, the way my chest felt tight sometimes, like I had been holding my breath without realizing it. The way there were moments during the day when I would suddenly take a deep breath like my body was correcting something on its own, and I told myself it was stress, maybe anxiety, maybe something physical that I hadn't noticed before, but deep down, I knew it didn't feel like that. It felt different. Like it wasn't something happening while I was awake. It was something happening when I wasn't aware. And the first time I truly realized something was wrong was when I woke up suddenly in the middle of the night, gasping for air. Not loud, not dramatic, just a sharp inhale. Like my body had been waiting for it, like it had been denied something it needed. And when I looked at the time, it was 3:12 a.m., and I sat there for a while trying to understand what had just happened, because it didn't feel like waking up from a dream. It felt like coming back from something else, something I couldn't remember, and I tried to go back to sleep after that, but it was difficult, because the feeling stayed with me that something had happened before I woke up. Something I had missed, and the next night, it happened again. Not exactly the same, but close enough that I couldn't ignore it. This time I woke up slower, more aware of the moment, and before I even opened my eyes, I felt it, that strange absence, like something was missing, like something wasn't happening that should have been. And when I opened my eyes, I took a breath automatically, and that's when I realized it. I hadn't been breathing. And I don't know how long it had been, but it felt like enough time for my body to react, like enough time for something to notice and correct it. And that thought stayed with me, because it didn't make sense. People don't just stop breathing without waking up, without reacting, without something triggering that response. And yet that's exactly what it felt like. Like there was a period of time where I wasn't breathing and I wasn't aware of it, and something else had to step in to fix it. And that was the moment I decided to record myself. Not because I wanted to prove something to someone else, but because I needed to see it for myself. I needed to know what was happening during the hours I couldn't remember. So I set up a camera across from my bed, angled, so that it captured everything. The bed, the door, the corners of the room, and I went to sleep with a feeling I couldn't ignore, a quiet anticipation. Like I already knew I was going to see something I didn't want to understand, and when I woke up the next morning, I didn't hesitate. I went straight to the footage, my hands slightly unsteady as I skipped through the hours until I reached the middle of the night, and at first everything looked normal. I was lying in bed still, breathing slowly, nothing unusual, nothing out of place. And for a moment I felt relief, like maybe it had all been in my head, like maybe there was nothing to find. But then I noticed something that made my chest tighten, because there was a moment where my breathing changed, not gradually, not naturally, but suddenly, it just stopped. And I froze watching the screen because I could see it clearly. My chest no longer rising, no movement, no sign of breathing, and I leaned closer, trying to convince myself I was wrong, trying to find some small movement, some indication that I had missed something. But there was nothing. It was completely still, and the seconds passed slowly on the timestamp. 3:10, then 3:11. And I didn't move. I didn't react. I didn't wake up. I just lay there completely still. And then something happened that I still can't fully explain, because it wasn't something I did. It wasn't a reaction or a reflex. It was something else. Something subtle but undeniable. Because my chest moved again, but not like before, not like a natural breath. It was too controlled, too deliberate, like something had restarted it. And I sat there staring at the screen trying to understand what I was seeing, because it didn't feel like my body had done that. It felt like something had done it for me, and I kept watching, and over the next few minutes, I saw the same pattern. Repeat my breathing, stopping for several seconds, then starting again. But each time it restarted, it didn't look natural. It didn't look like something my body was doing on its own. It looked like something was correcting it, like something was keeping it going. And that's when I started to feel something I couldn't ignore, because it wasn't just fear. It was something deeper, something more unsettling, because whatever was happening, it wasn't just passive. It wasn't just something wrong with my body. It was something active, something intervening, something making sure I kept breathing. And that thought stayed with me throughout the day, because it meant I wasn't alone during those moments. It meant there was something else there, something I couldn't see, something I couldn't remember, but something that was there when I needed it. And that realization didn't bring comfort. It made everything worse, because it raised a question I couldn't answer: why? And over the next few nights, I kept recording. I kept watching. And every time it was the same, my breathing would stop for several seconds, sometimes longer than before, and then it would start again, suddenly, deliberately, like it was being controlled, and I noticing something else, something I hadn't seen at first because I was too focused on the breathing. It was the way the room felt during those moments. Not something I could see clearly, but something I could sense in the footage. Like the shadows were slightly different, like the air itself was heavier. Like something was present, even if it wasn't visible. And the longer I watched, the more certain I became that there was something else there. Something just out of frame. Something I couldn't quite see but could feel in the way. Everything changed when my breathing stopped, and one night I decided to move the camera. I angled it differently, so it captured more of the room, more of the space around me, especially the corner near the door where the shadows were always the darkest. And when I checked the footage the next morning, I skipped ahead like always, and watched as my breathing slowed, then stopped. And for a few seconds, everything was still. And then I saw something I hadn't seen before, not clearly, not enough to describe, but enough to know it was there, because the shadows in that corner shifted slightly, not moving across the wall, not changing with the light, but adjusting like something within them had moved. And at the exact same moment, my chest rose again, taking a breath that didn't feel like mine. And I paused the video, staring at the screen, trying to process what I had just seen. Because it wasn't just my breathing anymore. It was connected to something else, something in that corner, something that moved when I needed it. And that was the moment everything changed. Because it meant whatever was keeping me alive wasn't just happening inside me. It was something outside of me. Something in our room, something that was there every night, watching, waiting, and acting when it needed to. And I didn't sleep much after that. I stayed awake as long as I could, listening to the silence of the room, feeling that same presence, even when I couldn't see it. And when I finally did fall asleep, I woke up again in the middle of the night. But this time it was different, because I woke up before the breath, before that sharp inhale that had become familiar. And for a few seconds, I lay there, completely still, aware of everything. Aware of the silence, aware of the absence of movement. And then I felt it, that same absence again, that same empty space where something should have been. and I realized I wasn't breathing. And for the first time, I stayed conscious long enough to feel what happened next, because it wasn't a sudden gasp. It wasn't a reflex. It was something else, something slower. Something deliberate, like something was deciding when I should take my next breath, and then I felt it. My chest rising slowly, not by my own effort, but guided, controlled. And that was the moment I understood something I couldn't ignore anymore. Whatever was happening, it wasn't just keeping me alive. It was choosing to, and that realization stayed with me, because it changed everything. It turned something that might have been explained into something that couldn't, because it meant I wasn't in control. Not during those moments, not during those breaths. And now every night when I lie down and close my eyes, I can feel it there, somewhere in the room. Not moving, not visible, just present, waiting for that moment when my breathing stops, waiting for that moment when it needs to act. And sometimes just before I fall asleep, I hear something, not a voice, not clearly, just a faint sound like something shifting in the corner. And I don't look, because I already know if I do, I won't see anything, and maybe that's worse, because it means whatever is there doesn't need to be seen. It just needs to be there. And the worst part is that I don't know what would happen if it wasn't. I don't know if my breathing would stop and never start again, or if something else would take its place, because lately something has changed. Something subtle but impossible to ignore, because those moments when my breathing stops are lasting longer, and the moments when it starts again feel slower. Like whatever is doing, it is taking more time, like it's becoming more deliberate. And sometimes when I wake up in the morning, I don't feel like I've been breathing naturally at all. I feel like every breath I took, I was given to me one at a time, and I don't know how much longer that will continue, or what will happen if it stops. But I do know one thing. I'm not the one keeping myself alive anymore. And I don't know what that means for me. But I know it means something. Because now when I lie in bed at night and everything goes quiet and still, I can feel it there, waiting for that moment when my breathing stops. And when it does, I don't even try to fight it anymore. Because I know something else is already there, ready to take over, ready to decide when I should breathe again. And sometimes just before it happens, just before everything goes still, I feel something closer than before. Not across the room, not in the corner, but nearer, like whatever has been watching isn't staying at a distance anymore, and I don't know if that means it's getting closer to me or if, it's becoming something else entirely. But I know that each night it feels stronger, more present, more certain. And the last time I checked the footage, I saw something that I haven't been able to stop thinking about. Because during one of those moments when my breathing stopped and the shadows shifted, I noticed that the movement didn't stay in the corner. It extended slightly toward the bed, like it was reaching just enough to make contact. And at that exact moment, my chest rose again. And that was the first time it felt like whatever was keeping me alive wasn't just observing anymore, it was interacting. And now every night when I lie there waiting for sleep, I don't just feel like something is watching me. I feel like something is closer than it should be. Closer than I can see. And the worst part is that I don't think it's just keeping me alive. Anymore, I think it's learning how to control it. And I don't know what happens when it no longer needs to wait for my breathing to stop. I don't know what happens when it decides to do it on its own, but I know that moment is getting closer. Because now sometimes, even when I'm awake, I catch myself holding my breath without realizing it, like something is testing how long I can go, and then suddenly I'll inhale again. Not because I chose to, but because something else decided it was time. And that's when I realize it isn't just happening at night anymore, it's starting to happen all the time. And I don't know how much longer I'll be able to tell the difference between the breaths that are mine and the ones that aren't.